Hello there my dear friends, and welcome back to another Star Wars video. So we're once again talking about John Boyega, Finn from the sequel trilogy. This is someone who comes up in the Star Wars news cycle pretty often. Comments he makes on podcasts and at conventions come up in the Star Wars news cycle every few months. And today we have a pretty big one. But before we get into the meat and potatoes, I just want to say this. The case of John Boyega and Finn is rather interesting. He's kind of gone back and forth on wanting to return to Star Wars or not, but generally, despite there being things I don't agree with him on, he's been rather consistent in calling Disney and Lucasfilm out, and I have to give it to him, he's got the most guts out of any of his fellow cast members. Especially in the last year or so, he's not afraid to just say, you know, Finn was screwed. I deserve better. I was sidelined. The Stormtrooper to Jedi arc should have been the focus, but it wasn't. What in the world happened? And another thing is that he's a genuine Star Wars fan. He knows his lore, he's a collector, he's shown off his knowledge time and again, he loves the Star Wars brand and keeps up with it. Now I'm not saying by any means that should be the default. Actors are just there to perform their role and to say their lines. But with John Boyega, it adds to his passion, beyond just selfish reasons, and he's not been afraid to call out the mouse. And he's literally said, everyone expects him to say it was a wonderful opportunity and I'm grateful for it. Well, today, my friends, there is another twist in the saga of the question of when is Finn gonna return? When are any of the sequel characters gonna return? There is obviously the Simon Kinberg trilogy, which is rumored to be episodes 10, 11, and 12. There is the Rey movie supposedly still in the works, although I would put a big question mark over it. When are fans gonna see these characters again? Well, it turns out, and here is the big update, John Boyega's already spoken to Dave Filoni about this. A small throwaway sentence reveals so much. It's making all of the headlines, and it could be something massive. So let's dive in. So this comes to us from across the pond from MegaCon Orlando. While speaking during a panel, one fan shouted to John Boyega, "Get Dave Filoni on the phone." And the actor's response was, quote, "I actually have," implying that discussions between the actor and the co-president of Lucasfilm have already taken place. This brief but significant comment has Star Wars fans in a frenzy. I've seen so many people speculate what those conversations might have been about, the way Finn might be brought back, the way Dave Filoni might handle the character versus Kathleen Kennedy. There has been so much speculation. But the truth of the matter is, Dave Filoni has conversations and consultations with so many different creatives, actors, producers, you name it. He's always involved in Star Wars conversations, be they minor, speculative, and concerning stories that are in development. But with this case of John Boyega, the fact he spoke to Dave Filoni is pretty significant, but we don't know the nature of the conversation and if Dave said yes. Was this a one-on-one with Dave? Was he being briefed about an upcoming script? Or was it just a simple catch-up with several actors? If you want to know my take, I think this is a pretty encouraging sign if you want to see Finn come back. There are some pretty credible rumors dating back to 2023 that stated Finn is going to be back alongside Rey in her new Jedi Order. I've only mentioned this once or twice in passing, just a random comment here and there, but I've been hearing for a long time there are plans for Finn to come back. And another great sign is what Kathleen Kennedy said in her goodbye interview with Deadline.com. She mentioned Dave Filoni and Lin-Win Brennan being very happy about the early drafts of Simon Kinberg's trilogy. If, as rumoured, it is going to be 10, 11, and 12, then Finn coming back is a no-brainer. So in light of the evidence, John Boyega having had conversations or a phone call with Dave is definitely a big first step, but I don't want to jump to the gun. We've been waiting on official updates for a very, very long time. I would say Finn's return, Poe Dameron's return, and Rey's return are in the pipeline, but not the priority at the moment. We have Maul Shadowlord, Mandalorian and Grogu, Ahsoka Season 2, and Starfighter before any possible Finn return. But I will say this. The frustration from John and his fans, also general sequel fans, shows you how badly Disney dropped the ball. He's one of those characters that had so much promise, and granted, there were some really awful reactions when he first appeared in the initial teaser for The Force Awakens, but so many of us love the concept of a stormtrooper defecting to the Resistance, discovering he's Force sensitive, and going on the journey to becoming a Jedi. I would go as far as to say that could have been the main focus of the sequel trilogy, and the demand for better sequel stories just shows you that there are fans who are willing to give these guys another shot, whether it's Kylo Ren with The Hunt for Ben Solo, Finn, Poe Dameron, and even more controversially, there are some Rey fans. And look, I don't spend too much time thinking about the sequel trilogy. In terms of my own personal preferences and my happy space, when it comes to Star Wars, I dedicate far more time to the prequel trilogy and the original trilogy. But I wouldn't mind if Dave Filoni was like, let's give these characters their fair due. Not J.J. Abrams, not Rian Johnson. This time we're going to have a plan, whether it's a trilogy or a standalone, and we're going to take the time to flesh out the character stories the way they deserve. And in my opinion, out of the sequel characters, Finn should be at the very top of that list. In terms of fan perception, I don't know if the sequel trilogy can be saved. It does have its minority of fans, but for a lot of people it's a dead end, even for the Mandoverse. I've come across countless fans who don't want to bother with new seasons because they know it has to lead to The Force Awakens. So in terms of this idea of saving the trilogy, or giving it a glow, doing what the Clone Wars did, in the eyes of many people who don't like the prequel trilogy, there's an argument to be made that we're beyond that, but I for one, wouldn't really mind seeing a Finn project, or something that does the character Finn justice. And finally, my dear friends, another John Boyega comment. He doubles down on Mace Windu being alive. A prequel trilogy theory I love, I've made tons of videos about, something which George Lucas agrees with, Samuel L. Jackson agrees with. Bryce Dallas Howard did ask Dave Filoni, again someone going to Dave and asking his opinion, but a lot of fans back this, and so does John. He's often joked he thinks that Finn is Mace Windu's son, and now he says he believes that Mace Windu should have a droid arm when he comes back, and he even says he's spoken to Samuel L. Jackson and his wife about it. I've got to be honest though guys, and you're probably sick of me bringing up this topic, but when it comes to Mace's return, I just don't think Lucasfilm has the guts to do it. They're trying to play things very safe. It's one of those theories in a long list of things Star Wars fans are hoping Disney and Lucasfilm do that I think it would take someone very, very daring. The implications of Mace Windu still being alive are massive, and I've gone into those. Where was he during the original trilogy? Why didn't he help with the fight against the Empire? Why doesn't Yoda know about it? Ezra, Ahsoka, and so on and so forth. There are so many questions they have to address if it's going to happen. I'd love for them to do it, even just out of curiosity for the spectacle of it. Samuel L. Jackson back in Star Wars, Mace Windu having survived the fall in Episode 3, but John reiterates that he's on board. But what do you guys think? Do you think his conversation with Dave Filoni means anything? Do you want to see Finn return to Star Wars? Should it happen, or should those characters be rested? Let me know your thoughts down below. And if you enjoyed this one, please be sure to give me a big fat thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, check me out on socials, and may the Force be with you, always.